right spot. Jump or not, flow tends to all ages, meaning while you sit back and watch the game, but little Jimmy's having the time of his life perfecting that front flip he most definitely wants to show you. You got this, Jimmy. So next time you think flow, think fun for everyone.
Next time you're online looking for landscaping inspiration, open Instagram and check out Southern Gent Landscaping. They can help make your yard your dream outdoor oasis. Southern Gent Landscaping can handle it all, from landscape maintenance and installation to irrigation and hardscapes, even AstroTurf. Turn your yard into a landscape you'll be proud to show off. Call Southern Gent Landscaping at 256-509-6088. 509-6088. Southern Gent Landscaping. Professional landscaping performed with satisfaction guaranteed.
Our customers want best-in-class solutions. That's why we've recently added many new vendors like Zebra barcode printers. Our next level team has added premier automation solutions. We're not here to sell you just one product, and we love helping you find the right solution to your specific needs. That's what doing the right thing is all about, and that's why our customers have come back for over 50 years.
Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
And there we are. Welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Safe travels into work, into school, wherever you may be headed on this Wednesday morning. We've made it to the halfway point of the week. Welcome into another brand new live edition of Talking Ball right here on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. A lot of stuff to get through, a lot of college football news and notes to get through, a lot of people to hear from on today's show. And we start you off, Alabama yesterday, 11th practice of fall camp. Seems like only yesterday we were talking about practice number 1. Now we're up to practice number 11, and we are nearing kickoff. Time's flying by, in case you want to know. Kane Womack gives us an update on the scrimmage and everything he's seen so far.
The offense did a really good job. We've challenged our guys to be able to respond early in games. That's hard for a defense because when you think about it, an offense is working all week long, right? They've got a game plan. They've got, whatever they want to call it. Usually people call it their openers or their starters, right? And so they've got, their first 8 to 10 plays of the game that they really feel good about and honed in on. The challenge for a defense, but also an opportunity, is if we can limit them in the first drive of the game, right, it creates a little bit of doubt in their mind, the things that they've been working all week long. But I thought our offense did a really good job in that. I thought our defense responded immediately after. Thought our tackling was just okay. We're running to the ball probably as good as I've seen since we've been here. But I think overall, from a tackling standpoint, those are things that you got to get better at from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2.
There you go. And I don't think a lot of Alabama fans will sit there and say, last year, exactly what Coach is saying right there, defensive coordinator Kane Womack, was that, hey, sometimes you got to start off, you want to start off fast, but the offenses have been working for a week against to try to come up with a game plan to slow your defense down. And sometimes you got to adjust, and they've been wanting them to start fast.
Yes, they have, no question. And they are playing a different style of defense. Some of the principles are still the same as Nick Saban's, but it's Kane Womack's defense, and they're running a 4-2-5. And obviously, there was probably some tackling issues. You kind of heard Kane talk about that. But when you only hit 2 days a week and you have a lot of thudding and you don't have a lot of live tackling, that's what happens. So it's no time to panic and think nobody can tackle anybody, because everybody's in the same boat. And, the tackling will improve as you get into practice rhythm. And as the season starts, when you have a game to play each and every weekend and you play a lot of football, then I think those fundamentals will, pick up. But again, is
that why you think then week 1, maybe week 2, not just Alabama, but college football programs, we're not going to see we'll see some good football, but not great football in week 1 and week 2?
We'll see. I mean, we haven't. Again, it just depends on it. It's kind of dictated by the opponent sometimes, especially if you play somebody really good, and also how healthy you are. You need to be healthy, and that's another reason why they've cut down on the contact, and there's no more 2-a-days and 3-a-days, because you're trying to keep people healthy. And there's been scholarship restrictions for a long time. Now they're trying to expand the rosters
to 105 is what they want to. That's the word we're hearing is 105 expansion of the roster.
Some of that's posturing because Greg Sankey and some of the other leaders in college football are trying to wake the idiots up in Washington, but right now they're trying to decide who's going to lead the country and in the next 4 years, the presidential election. So, and some of those people have a pulse up there and some don't. So, we've talked about that a little bit.
Oh, you can always join the program throughout the morning, 256-576-4977. That's how we get you started with Alabama defensive coordinator Kane Womack. Let's go out to the phone lines. Mark from Spring Hill is with us. Good morning, Mark.
Hey, morning, guys. Appreciate it. Hey, I did a little research on this, and I was pleasantly surprised to see, don't know if y'all know this or not, but Alabama will field the most experience in terms of ranking of junior, senior class of any team in the conference. And let me go over that real quick. I won't go on by name, but they'll start only one sophomore on defense, no freshmen, all juniors and seniors. I don't think that's been talked about a lot, but that's important for anyone who follows football and championship football. Is to some of those are transfers, but at the end of the day, when you got people that's played before, that's going to help you. You'd rather play with those guys because they've been there, done that. The other thing on offense, Jeremy Hayes, number 22, is a sophomore. Proctor's a sophomore. And I think there's one more sophomore. I missed it, and the rest of those are juniors and seniors. So Alabama only fields 4 sophomores out of their whole starting team. I don't remember a time when it was that junior and senior laden. Does that not help Alabama?
In some ways, we'll see. But again, everybody's kind of starting over under this new staff. And I know you were talking about Justice Haynes, and right now I would say probably Jam Miller will start, and he will be a junior.
Okay. There's another junior.
It depends on personnel. Maybe they start in a split backfield. We don't know that yet for sure.
Right.
I expect a true freshman to be in the starting lineup and Ryan Williams, just because I think he's that good. So we'll see. But and then I think Wilkin Formby, who's a redshirt freshman, could end up making his first start at right tackle. So there'll be some young guys, littered throughout the lineup. If Zabian Brown's hand is completely healed, it wouldn't surprise me if he starts instead of Deshaun Jones. And that's no disrespect to Deshaun Jones. I just think Zabian had a great spring and has had a really good fall too. But that's a great competition there. I do think there'll be a rotation at corner though, and I think they'll play 4 or 5 corners. So it'll be interesting to see how many they play. Certainly with TJ Finley coming in, who's probably 30 years old by now and is on his 4th college because of the transfer portal. Alabama's already faced Finley. He started for Auburn in that 2021 Iron Bowl, so they're very familiar with him. And he had a good year at Western Kentucky last year, and he's returning. I don't even think he's a senior yet, unbelievably. So you'll be facing an experienced quarterback that's been in that system. So, but certainly the defense at most positions is going to be experienced. We've heard about LT Overton and how he's been playing at the bandit spot, and even it would be his first game at Alabama, but he would be a junior after playing 2 years, at Texas A&M. So it is an experienced group for the most part, no doubt about it. But I think there'll be a lot of youth and inexperience in the secondary, and just inexperience from the standpoint that a lot of the guys are portal additions. Mm-hmm. It's still an older team. I think, especially offensively. And it always helps when you have a quarterback like Jalen Milroe, who's got skins on the wall and has played, even if it is a new offense. And so he's been the leader of this team since last year. That's always a great place to start.
Yeah.
And then you got 2 stalwarts at guard in Booker and Roberts that have experience. And then Brailsford will be a junior, but he was at Washington, not Alabama. But Luckily, he's been back for the entirety of fall camp and is trying to assert himself at that pivot spot at center. So, but I do think when you look at it, Mark, that is a valid point. It's some older guys,
Well, that's
with some youth sprinkled in at spots.
And that's what helped last year. Remember, Florida State was the oldest football team in America last year.
Right.
In college football, Florida State was. And if it would not have been for some injuries, Florida State could have possibly been in the playoffs down the stretch. But it did help Florida State last year make a surprise run into the top 5.
Yeah, and I tell you, a team, one of the youngest, and if you can go double check me on this, I looked at it last night. Georgia and Texas, they filled some of the fewest juniors and seniors in the conference. Everybody's got them, rah in the playoffs already, got their tickets purchased. But I'm not buying that. I still think Alabama is going to beat Georgia at home. I know it'll be a tough game and all that, but I guess that's something I'm going to look forward to, maybe encourage the Alabama fans out there that, we got experience that matters, great coaching, and let's go play.
Yeah. All right, Mark, thanks for the phone call. There's no doubt youth, I mean, it does play a factor, and we got a lot of stuff we can get into from that as well, because Mark mentions the Texas Longhorns. And Texas, by the way, dealing with another injury. Their depth now at running back took a blow. Christian Clark, he's going to miss the year with a torn Achilles.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So they, being Texas, are in a spot where their running back depth has really taken a huge hit, to the point where they're working out other position players just to see if they could catch lightning in a bottle with the running back spot. Now, they do still have Jadon Blue. Trey Wisner will be there. Jarrett Gibson will be there. Now, Clark is unproven. He was a freshman, but he was going to be expected to contribute
after the injury. Yeah.
After the injury, he was going to be expected to contribute.
But
now he is gone. So Texas's running back depth took a huge hit. And Mark brought up a good point too as well. Last year, they had Worthy at wide receiver, 1,000-yard receiver. They had a great running back as well.
Jonathan Brooks.
They've lost all that production from last year, and they're going to have to try to fill it. Guys that have produced, but they're going to have to fill it with guys like Silas Bolden, Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, and Jadon Blue.
Well, Jadon Blue is, first of all, he's going to have to be the guy at running back. He's a very talented guy. We talked with CJ Vogel about that last week.
Yeah.
He's a junior, but he's shown flashes. He's going to have to be the dude, especially with Brooks and also Keelan Robinson, the former Alabama transfer. He moved on to the NFL as a 5th-round pick last year. Going to try to be kind of a special teams demon in the National Football League and probably a 3rd down back, but he's not there anymore to take up some of the slack either. So Texas is going to have to kind of start over. I mean, that's tough with those 2 injuries at running back. And we've kind of talked about it before when people have in the past, Nick Saban would have a lot of depth at the tailback spot, and people would talk about, you only got one football, but when I remember in 2021 when Brian Robinson was a senior and finally had a chance to be the dude and be the bell cow running back, by the end of the season, he was the only healthy one. Really, there was a lot of guys banged up. It was the same way in 2018 when Alabama lost in the national championship game because Josh Jacobs and Damian Harris were freshmen, but they were banged up by the end of the year. We all know what happened to Bo Scarborough. It's the main reason why Clemson won that game is because, Bo went down, and then they had 2 key defensive injuries and Eddie Jackson and Sean Dion Hamilton. So injuries are a part of it. And with Texas, they're hitting them early. So they're going to have to kind of reconfigure their football team and their backfield. And they really can't afford any more injuries. So hopefully their backs can stay healthy. But Jadon Blue has always been a guy that people have looked to as far as a talented guy that had NFL ability. And now he's going to get his chance to showcase that, man. We'll see. And then it kind of hurts Texas because at the end of the recruiting process, Nick Saban, before he retired, they flipped, Avery Bubba Hampton from the state of Texas to Alabama. He was an all-purpose guy in high school that played both sides of the ball, but has the ability to run the football and also play receiver. And I know he's impressed some people at Alabama, but there's a lot of depth at running back and wide receiver at Alabama right now. Texas could sure use Bubba Hampton, but guess what? He can't transfer right now, so stick it.
No matter whatever coach you ask in the SEC, they'll tell you it's a meat grinder of a season, and you got to have depth, and depth. Let's get a break in when we come back. Kirby Smart will give us an update on the Georgia Bulldog football program. We will hear from Deontay Lawson. We got to hear from Josh Heupel. We got all kinds of stuff to get through. We got a lot of college football conversation coming your way. It's Talking Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
On 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Sounds like the wreck at 20 and the Beltline in Decatur has been cleared. Now we got one at Wilson and McCartney. That one reported with an injury, so they're working with it. Had a traffic signal reported out at Mooresville Road in Greenbrier. With more than 30 years experience, D&L Refrigeration can save you money on those heating and air conditioning repairs. 256-652-1207. State license 08091. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Ann Adams with Berkshire Hathaway Rise Real Estate is the one name to know if you're buying or selling real estate. With years of local experience, Ann Adams offers buyers in-depth knowledge of the local housing market and will narrow available properties down to those you'll be interested in so you can save time when shopping for your new home. If you're ready to sell, Ann offers a seamless process using accurate pricing and expert negotiation skills to make sure you get a fair price for your home. Call Ann Adams today at 256-337-2625 or log on bhhsriserealestate.com.
Tom Luganville here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
You don't have to go somewhere else just so you can go somewhere new. Plan your next vacation with Huntsville International Airport and Breeze Airways. Enjoy friendly, convenient, nonstop travel to some of the most exciting destinations in the U.S., including the home of iconic casinos, world-class shows, dining, and entertainment. Las Vegas. With flights starting as low as just $79, Breeze has got you covered with easy, breezy, nonstop flights to Las Vegas. Book nonstop to Las Vegas now at flybreeze.com.
Have you ever turned your back on God? Have you ever absolutely known the right thing to do and just turned around and walked away in disobedience? I know that I have. Aren't we thankful for our great and merciful God who loves us and forgives us and remembers our sin no more? I'm so thankful that his mercies are fresh every day. I need that, and I suspect you do too. Hey, I'm John Dees, pastor of Cross Point Church, and if you're looking for a church home, come see us. We're smack dab across the street from the YMCA in Madison. And check us out at cpcfamily.org.
The best in local sports talk from the 256. We are local.
When you're number one, you don't have to worry.
We are award-winning. Thank you for listening. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
You'll be set for life.
There you go. Welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond on a Wednesday morning. Welcome back into the program. 7:17 on a Wednesday morning. I mentioned we talked, not last segment, we were talking about depth of college football. And how about Kirby Smart giving us an update on the Georgia Bulldogs?
It's brief. We got a long way to go as a football team. We are nowhere near where we close to where we need to be. I feel like we have less depth than we've ever had, and that's kind of a common theme talking to other coaches I talk to. I call it the deterioration of football, because every year we've been here, I feel like we've had more players capable of going in and play winning football. And every year that goes down. So we got to keep working to increase that number.
Worst depth he's seen.
Yeah, portal era, man. That's what happens in certain positions. You don't have a lot of depth. Hugh Freeze has talked about that as well.
Yep.
About not wanting to get guys hurt and keep guys healthy going into the season because it's a gauntlet and a grind. And everybody is going to suffer some losses in the transfer portal. That's just the way it is. Alabama did, Georgia has, Auburn. Nobody's been unaffected by the portal. It's just it's a matter of managing your roster. We've already heard the poignant comments of Mark Stoops earlier in camp about, basically having 100 free agents a year. So it's more about your culture, building relationships. Kalen DeBoer talked about that. We're going to discuss it with Alex Scarborough later today in the show, as he had a chance to sit down with Kalen and talk about, building a roster and the way they recruit and what they had to do, basically hitting the ground running once he made the decision that, okay, I'm leaving Washington. I'm bringing guys like Courtney Morgan with me, but we're also going to have to reconfigure our staff a little bit, and we've got to try to retain as much of our roster as possible. And then, of course, you're already behind on the 2025 class because you're trying to keep your 24s in place. So you're constant. It's a constant evolution, and you're constantly on the phone and you're constantly recruiting.
As far as Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, so far Carson Beck apparently has looked like a veteran. The wide receiver position, they're still having to rotate, although Thomas, we don't know how big of a role he was expected to have, but with him no longer being part of the team, they're trying to shuffle around their wide receiver position a little bit. And early on, for the first few fall camp practices, no shock here, Jaden Rashada has had a hard time finding targets.
Had a hard time finding checks. Had a hard time finding targets. Had a hard time finding a place to live. Had a hard time staying somewhere more than 6 months. He's the classic portal case of overrated. Might as well just name himself Jaden Daniels. Except what I mean by that is he would be related to JT Daniels,
right?
Who went to 15 colleges or however the hell many he went to. Ended up playing against tomato cans at Rice against and with a dog and a cat in the stands.
Is this Georgia Bulldog program or team, the 2024 version, is it as good as last year's program?
Just not. They lost too much. They lost, Lad McConkey, the best tight end maybe in SEC history when he was healthy. Lost some big-time offensive linemen, especially in the pivot, that had played a lot of football. Lost a Amarius Mims. I know he wasn't healthy a lot, but he was a freakazoid talent at offensive tackle. That was a first-round draft choice. They lost some impact defensive guys that played a lot of snaps. So, no, I mean, they've lost players. Now, are they still really, really talented? Absolutely, because they've recruited well. But they lost Jack Saint, and at wide receiver as well. They lost their top three receivers really to the NFL. These are guys that are going to play on Sundays for a while. But they've lost some players. They lost their tailback, and that's why they had to go out and get ATN. So they've lost some players, no doubt about it. But they're very talented. I mean, don't misunderstand things.
Right.
That's why they're still number one in the country on paper. But and we know how much that means.
No, it doesn't mean much right now. It doesn't mean much right now at all.
Nope.
Because
on paper, quite frankly, the best team in the country should be Ohio State when you spend as much money as they spent on a friggin' roster, because there is no salary cap, okay? So you can buy as many players as you want. So Ohio State went out and bought a bunch. They basically redid the middle of their entire football team. When you talk about Seth McLaughlin at center, Will Howard at quarterback, Keyshawn Moneybags at running back, and they still had their starting tailback back, okay? So Ohio State's very talented.
Not to mention what they spent on defense.
Whatever. But, I mean, I mean, lately Ohio State really hadn't stopped anybody. At least it doesn't look like it to me. I guess they were improved last year over the manure we saw the previous two, but they still couldn't beat Michigan. Okay, now we have a new coach at Michigan, though, so we really don't know what to expect at Michigan. So because they lost a ton of guys to the portal, they lost their head coach to the NFL. Once he got tired of arguing with the NCAA over BS. So again,
Georgia being number one, that's the equivalent of Alabama being down to 5 because Nick Saban's not there. So they drop Alabama down. Kirby Smart is giving them that number one bump.
I'll be honest with you. If Nick Saban had not retired and he could have got it, and Jeremy Pruitt hadn't trusted Fatlock and ended up, in purgatory for 5 or 6 more years. And high school football is not purgatory. Everybody knows how much I love it. I'm just saying he could be making $2 million a year as Alabama's defensive coordinator. That's what that's code for. If Nick Saban had Bo Davis and Jeremy Pruitt and kept Caleb Downs and kept all the other guys that decided to stay, if Bonds had decided to stay and not go take a Lamborghini, and if Amari Niblack had stayed and they kept the whole team together, then Alabama would probably be preseason number one based on Nick Saban's track record. Okay. But a lot of things happened, and they haven't seen Kalen DeBoer coach at Alabama. You've certainly seen it at Washington. So to be honest with you, being, preseason ranked number 5, I mean, that's pretty strong when you have a head coach that's never coached in the SEC, never coached in the state of Alabama, and he's still the 5th ranked team. Problem is the SEC is extremely difficult because you have a team as talented as Georgia with Kirby Smart, who's got to be the king of the mountain right now because of what he's done the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, I'm looking at the Georgia schedule this year, and that's last year they cakewalked to Atlanta. That schedule last year was simple. Yeah, this year it's not as simple. I mean,
it's much more difficult.
There's some headliners on here. I mean, you open up with Clemson. We don't know a lot about Clemson. They are so unknown.
Yeah.
Defensively, yes, they say, "Oh, Clemson's going to be great."
I mean, what are the Georgia fans going to do? Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but what if they lost to Clemson and Alabama the first month? Then the rest of the friggin' season, you really have to win out if you want to make the playoff.
Games with Auburn, Texas, Florida, Ole Miss, Tennessee on the schedule,
and that ain't last year's schedule,
right?
So I don't know, but is Georgia going to be favored to win both those games? Yes. They're already favored over Clemson on a neutral field. They're already favored to come to Alabama and win, something they hadn't done since 2007 with Matthew Stafford when he was still quarterback.
Take that even further. Let's say Georgia comes out and starts off slow. They slip up against Clemson. They pound Tennessee Tech the next week.
If they don't pound Tennessee Tech, then there's some rotten in Denmark.
But then they travel to Kentucky in week 3.
Yeah. Uh-oh, Jeff.
What if Mark Stoops and Kentucky put something together early in the season?
You got a chance. Remember, you ain't got no talent, Jeff. You got a chance to make a statement. You got Brock Vandagriff playing against his old team. Can you step it up?
That could be a statement game for Mark Stoops.
It could.
Week 3 of the season.
There he is. We didn't plan that.
Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Jeff from the Borough is with us. Good morning, Jeff.
How you guys going, guys? Y'all talking about schedules. There's two games I hope happen. I don't know if they will or not. I'm hoping Clemson beats Georgia.
Right.
And I'm hoping Notre Dame kicks the poo out of Texas A&M. I got a friend of mine, he's a big Notre Dame fan.
Right.
Notre Dame fan. So I'm hoping, in fact, I don't know when they play. Was it first week?
It is the first week in College Station, yes.
I hope they go down to College Station and beat their butt.
Well, I mean, if Dirtneck were coaching, I'd probably agree with you, but he's not coaching anymore. So
I mean, I know what. I mean, I got a she's a volleyball coach. She went to Cliff. She played women's basketball there.
Right.
I don't know. She knows much about football, but I'm hoping Clemson beats the fool out of Georgia too. Now, I don't know if they'll lose to Alabama, but if Clemson beats him the first week, the whole state of Georgia, that Athens and probably the whole Athens South will probably go nuts. They'll probably want Larry Munson to come back, and that's probably because I told Mo this one day. This is my opinion. Larry Munson, and what John Ward said about him, said he broke every rule in broadcasting when he done a ball game. Every rule. Okay? And Moulton thinks he's so great. Steve Moulton thinks he's just the greatest thing in the world. Okay? In my opinion, Larry Munson is the worst play-by-play announcer in SEC history. The worst. I mean, throwing calls. He don't even know he didn't know what a hobnail boot was. he don't know what it is, and he don't even know how to spell it properly. And he said that in all that Lindsey run stuff. It's a 10K, I guess. All the calls he made. And one time, I know y'all remember this. One time he called a game for football. I think they come back and he said, you knew that we were going to lose and I did too, or something like that. Some smart stuff like that. And I don't know if y'all. I know y'all listen to him, right?
Right. Well, Jeff, I might ask you a question. If he was so bad, why do you remember all these calls?
Because they're so bad. I mean, that's my opinion. That's my opinion. Okay,
it's a valid question.
They're so bad.
Because Lindsey Scott wasn't running the 10K that day. He wasn't running cross country. It's football. He wasn't running. And then when he scored, he just announces. He don't say he scored. He just announces his name like it's some kind of a and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm just saying that's what John Ward said about him. He said Kaywood Ledford was the greatest of all time. And you see, Kaywood Ledford went by one name, like LeBron or Michael. Kaywood. He didn't go by his last name. It was Kaywood. He was like LeBron or LeBron James or Michael Jordan. He was the best of all time, and everybody knows it. 39 years. Everyone in the SEC knows that. The only thing the SEC don't know it is when they had that voice thing, they had him on there about 60 seconds. And showing all they showed was the 1978 game they played Duke. They showed one little clip of football when they played Florida in the 80s. They didn't show enough of them. They should do a whole documentary on Kaywood Ledford, but they won't. They'll do it on Bama softball or some stupid thing they're going to show tonight. Decade of dominance. You kidding me, Dave? Decade of dominance. Oh, my Lord.
Of course it was for Alabama football. I mean,
Greg Sankey thinks that, football, that's it. Nothing else. That's all. Ain't nothing else they've dominated but football. That's all. They ain't dominated nothing else. And I was going to say football decade because they ain't dominated nothing else. Softball, nothing else. Volleyball, they sure ain't. Softball, volleyball, basketball.
They've been beating the hell out of Kentucky basketball a lot. Alabama has lately, Jeff.
Kentucky's dominated basketball. They might as well have a hope with that Southern Hoops. They went by women's basketball. They should have done a whole
thing. Getting him higher than 8 Oats to a little rough there.
Thing about Kentucky starting 19. Let me tell you something. If you watch part 1 of Southern Hoops, if you watch that thing, you will know why Kentucky's not a powerhouse in football by the time you get through watching it.
I know the story. I know.
Well, I know, but I'm saying you'll know why they're not a powerhouse in football. That's why, because basketball was a lot cheaper and less expensive, and they didn't have all the equipment. And you'll know why how Adolph Rupp got hired. But now that's 2 games I want to see Clemson and Notre Dame win the first games of the season. So y'all hang in there, guys.
Thanks.
Well, all I know is, I mean, he may not be known by his first name, but when you say Munson, everybody understands who you're talking about. Munson. Okay. And Jeff was quoting 3 or 4 calls that are 40, 50 years old.
So
that's all I'm saying.
So John Ward, and then you got Bill Anderson.
Yeah.
What about Jim Fife at Auburn?
Yeah, Jim Fife.
He was there 22 years for Auburn. John Forney.
John Forney for Alabama, probably Alabama's most famous voice.
You've got Jim Hawthorne, LSU.
Yeah, long time. Jack Crystal at Mississippi State.
Dave Kellum, Ole Miss.
Dave's been doing it a long time, but Jack Crystal, his voice was, synonymous with Mississippi State. And so, but we've been very blessed to have a lot of guys do it for a long, long time and do it at a very high level. Eli Gold just finished his run at Alabama. Chris Stewart's taking that, the torch or baton and running with it, and has already really done that in recent times in 2020, and certainly in even last year. So we're excited about that. He did the road games and certain home and a home game or 2, I believe. So we're excited about Chris Stewart and what he can do, but certainly Eli had a great storied run for Alabama as well.
All right. So he calls Larry Munson, the worst broadcaster of all time in the SEC. That's
only because Kentucky got the hell beat out of them all the time by Georgia. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, they didn't beat them much. Back before Mark Stoops got here, they didn't win many games against anybody.
Right.
Except 1977.
256-576-4977. We do have to get a break in. When we come back, more Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. A partly sunny sky this afternoon, maybe a couple of isolated showers across North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee. Otherwise, it is going to be relatively hot and relatively humid. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid 90s. We're dropping into the upper 60s, lower 70s as we head into the overnight. A mostly sunny to partly sunny sky for your Thursday afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the mid and upper 90s. It is going to feel like it is in the lower triple digits. Isolated, widely scattered showers and thunderstorms are going to be possible, but it does look like the vast majority of us are going to stay dry. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Still got a wreck working in Decatur, Wilson and McCartney. That one reported as an injury type. Got a report of a traffic signal problem at Mooresville and Greenbrier. And we had a wreck reported just off 565 on Greenbrier, just north of the intersection there. That one came in as a minor accident. The 8th annual Bernard Blues and Barbecue Fest is coming September 7th and 8th next to Ave Maria Grotto at St. Bernard in Coleman. Arts and crafts, live music, great barbecue, a KC cook-off, and a $10,000 giveaway. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Listen to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond.
Y'all the best, man. Hey, just don't make sure I don't get that Moron plaque.
No, sir. Not at all.
Thanks, Coach. Oh, Ronnie Stapler joining us. No, Coach, you are not going to get the Moron of the Year plaque.
Every weekday morning, wake up with Scott and Drew. It's Talkin' Ball on 97.7 The Zone.
Since 1986, Full Moon Barbecue has been cooking quality meats low and slow over a hickory wood-fired pit. From ribs and wings, brisket, turkey, catfish, and sausage to the best butts in town. If you're planning a holiday or a birthday party, Full Moon has a large banquet room. And Full Moon is ready for your next catering or tailgate. Just call us and we'll take care of everything. 256-713-0070. Full Moon Barbecue on the Parkway next to Costco. The best little pork house in Alabama.
There's power in caring when it is put into action. Each year, our bankers serve on nonprofit boards, support our local educators, and volunteer with our hometown food bank. I'm Bobby Humphrey, Vice President of Business Development for Bryan Bank, and community service is just not a line item in our mission statement. It's who we are. Because after all, Alabama is our home too. That kind of commitment to community might not be what you would expect from a bank, but it's exactly what you can expect from us. Give us a call or stop by one of our 2 offices in the Huntsville area and experience unbeatable service and legendary results.
Bryan Bank Equal Housing Lender, NMLS ID 2428943, member FDIC.
The company is Eagle Masonry and Insulation, but did you know they're also Eagle Landscaping and Dirt Work? Eagle can take care of all your landscaping needs, including irrigation, sod work, and planting, both plants and trees. On the dirt work side, Eagle can grade and build your pads, haul dirt in or out, and even do erosion control. Philip Love and his team can do it all for you. The website is the same, insulatewitheagle.com, as is the phone number, 256-755-1556. Give them a call and see what Eagle can do for you. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
I got rice cooking in the microwave. Got a 3-day bed.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone. And Jeff from the Borough bringing up Larry Munson.
Carswell intercepted on the 33. Carswell saved our Franny, and the Dogs will have the ball on the 40. 4, we're out lined up 3. They have no timeouts, 2. The stadium is worse than bonkers. We hand it off to Herschel. There's a hole. 5, 10, 12. He's running over people. Oh, you Herschel Walker. Clock running. Oh, look at the sugar falling out of the sky.
A little bit of Larry Munson right there.
Yep, no question about it.
In Jeff's eyes, the worst broadcaster in SEC football history. All right, let's go out to the phone lines, 256-576-4977. LC is with us. Good morning, LC.
Morning.
Hey, guys. Love the show. Jeff has come out with some offers before, but could that guy be serious about Larry Munson? How about when Herschel Walker ran all over Tennessee? My God, he's just a freshman.
Yeah, we were just kind of replaying some of that call. Yep.
He was away from the microphone during a big play one time, and you hear him scrambling, and he goes, "Oh, I broke my chair." I mean, he is a classic. I've never been a Georgia fan. I used to love to listen to Larry Munson. Guys, can't be serious about that. I'm going to hang up. I can't take
Well, I mean, he loves Kentucky.
Thanks,
You got to
LC.
understand, and Georgia's a rival. They played them every year until now
Right.
that we've gone away from divisions, but they play them every year in football. They were in the same SEC East, and if you go back and look, Stoops has had a lot of success in his tenure at Kentucky. He's the winningest coach in school history, but there's another school that he's had a lot of trouble against, and even played them undefeated late in seasons, and that's Georgia, and has not been able to compete with them. And that's another reason why he got mad at me. That's another reason why I told him that Kentucky would never go to Atlanta to the SEC championship game, because they just couldn't solve that riddle. They've
Right.
improved by leaps and bounds under Mark Stoops. There's no question about that. They've become much more competitive, but they just haven't been able to, get over that hump and win an Eastern Division title. They've given themselves some opportunities late in seasons, but they couldn't beat. And then they have a couple of times, but still Tennessee's kind of got their number too. But Georgia, once Kirby got it rolling, and that was 2017 going forward, and now he's in year 9 in Athens, Georgia's just been a thorn in the side of Kentucky, and they haven't been able to beat them. Kentucky's competed with a lot of teams in the league, and they played Alabama tough, but didn't win. But still, it's just one of those things where Kentucky has made strides, but they haven't quite become a program that's been able to get to Atlanta. Now, a couple of those teams that Stoops has had, if you had a 12-team playoff back years ago, they would have had a chance to potentially be in it. And maybe he can still get Kentucky to a 12-team playoff. I don't think that is an impossibility. But as far as winning an SEC championship in the Bluegrass, that's going to be a tough go in football.
Yeah, Southern Miss, South Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, not Ohio State, Ohio, and Ole Miss, the 5 games for Kentucky out of the gates before their bye week. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of those games all come at home. 4 of their first 5 games are at home for Kentucky. And then the next 4 before their second bye. Remember, teams will have 2 byes this year in college football. Vanderbilt, Florida, Auburn, and Tennessee, with 2 of those coming on the road, 2 coming at home. Kentucky has a decent schedule. The back half, the last 3 games, Murray State, Texas, and Louisville, with the Texas game coming on the road. So that's a navigable, tough schedule for Kentucky, but one they can take advantage of and make hay early. You should.
We'll find out early on how good they are.
Yeah.
I mean, since you're playing Georgia that early, and you've got Brock Vandergriff, and you've got still a pretty good roster there on the Bluegrass. We'll see, how good the Wildcats are. I mean, certainly we'll find out if they're a true sleeper team that has a chance to make a playoff run. I don't have them in the playoffs. I think they're going to have another good team.
Yes.
But I don't have them in the top 10 in the SEC. I believe I picked them 11th. But that's no disrespect to Mark Stoops. I just think the league is very, very difficult, but I certainly admire the job that he's done.
All right, let's get out to the phone lines. Wolverine Dan is with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dan.
Yeah, well, you're doing broadcasters, and I got to bring up some names. I mean, you guys, I don't know if you heard of him. I know one guy you probably heard of. He's a Hall of Famer, played for Michigan, and also he played in the pros. Dan Deerdorf.
Yeah, he was a good one and a good color analyst, no doubt about it. Yep.
And Jim Brandt Center also was a Michigan man. He was those two together, and then you got Frank Beckman, and then the guy. When I say Michigan, I stole that from Ufer. Ufer was an announcer years ago, and then he used to do the Michigan every time they scored. So that's where I stole that. So that's not me. I got to be honest with you. That's not original.
Right.
Huh.
Well, it's some history. I mean, and history will be made again this year when we go back to back. But
well, I don't know about that one.
Hey, listen,
back to back.
You know what? I've been here a long time, almost 30 years in this town, and it feels. And if it took another 30, I'd wait another 30 just to have what I had last year, guys. That was pretty special. I mean, it really was. And, I respect Alabama for their winning program and their coach. The guy wins. He's the best. And, so for me, and I said that earlier, when we beat you in the playoffs, to me, really, actually, I was satisfied with that. You had me at that. Okay, I didn't have the national championship. It was icing on the cake, but beating Alabama, I mean, come on, man. And living in this state and all these years that you guys were beating us, you got to admit that was pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, it was a big win for Michigan, no doubt about it. And it's a big time turnaround the last 3 years for Harbaugh. When I remember you coming on this station wanting him gone.
Well, yeah. Well, I didn't understand the trips overseas. I didn't understand that. That didn't make any sense to me. So I was a little perturbed about that. But when Jeff is that his name, Jeff, that with the raspy voice?
Yeah,
Jeff from the Borough. Yep.
Yeah, man. I guess he's a writer or something. I guess he's well knowledgeable when it comes to sports. But man, when he gets on somebody, he pounces, man. I mean, he's relentless. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you might want to let him, with whatever team you've been pouncing on or announcer or whatever, maybe give him some air, especially someone that's not here anymore. I don't think that guy's here anymore, is he?
Larry Munson? No.
Larry, he's no longer with us.
He passed away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd like to be pouncing on dead people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, we lost Jim Fife. We've lost Kaywood Ledford. There's a lot of them that have, don't forget Rod Bramlett, who had a great run at Auburn also. So
yeah,
we've lost John Forney and yep.
Well,
John
here's a
Ward.
quick question. Here's a quick question. I'll get your answer, and then I'll let you go. But the thing with I forgot his name already. The last announcer for Alabama,
Eli Gold.
Yeah, well, so okay, with Eli Gold, was it a mutual breakup kind of thing, or is just this? They said, well, in your opinion on that, what do you think about that?
No, it wasn't mutual. Eli wanted to stay, and Alabama wanted him to stay as well, but they wanted him to take on a different role, a smaller role. And Eli wanted to continue on as he had for many, many years since the late 80s as the voice full-time of Crimson Tide football. He wasn't full-time last year. That was something that he enjoyed because he mostly did the home games. He did get a chance to, I believe, do the Iron Bowl. But, again, it's just one of those things. Chris Stewart had done it in 20 when there was the COVID situation, and then Eli had some health issues. Certainly Chris was there to pick up the baton. And I think after Eli's latest health issues with the cancer and everything that he was able to thankfully beat during that period of time, I think Alabama started the process because Eli's had such a storied career of making the transition to Chris. I think that's one reason why Chris has stayed, because he's been the longtime voice, since the early 90s of Alabama basketball, late 90s. And then, he took that over full time, and then he's been the voice of baseball for 20 years until really this season when Roger Hoover took over. But Chris has had a long run, and I think he was always being groomed to eventually take over once Eli's long tenure concluded.
So, did you like the way Eli Gold exited, or didn't like the way
no exit's ever easy,
Yeah.
especially when you've been there so long. I thought Alabama handled it about it as well as they could.
Yeah, thanks for the phone call, Wolverine Dan,
Thank you.
as well. 7:47. Let's get a break in. When we come back, Richard and Jason will get to you as well. Plus some more conversation. Got to wrap up hour one of Talking Ball coming up next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
And a wreck at Moore's Mill and Steger that reported as an injury type, but looks like they just updated it to a no injury. And one indicator, Wilson and McCartney, still not maybe trying to clear that one, reported injury. Problems with the traffic signal this morning, Mooresville Road and Greenbrier. Do your methods to lose weight no longer work for you? 7 different hormones can make it impossible for you to lose weight. Find out more with a free hormone quiz at 2030huntsville.com. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
This summer, make it a Woody Anderson Ford. Make it 0% financing, make it no down payment, and make no payments for 90 days. Hey folks, Bobby White back again for Woody Anderson Ford. It's our Ford Summer Sales event, and I promise you can save serious dollars on a large selection of our 2024 Fords. We've got financing as low as 0% for 36 months on 2024 F-150, Explorer, Expedition, Edge, Escape, plus all-electric F-150 Lightning and Mustang Mach-E. And on all these Fords I just mentioned, you'll make no down payment and no payments for 90 days. Can you say Orange Beach, here we come? This is going to be a good summer. Come choose from over 550 new Fords, and you'll learn firsthand that nobody will work harder to earn your business. Brand new award-winning Fords with 0% financing, no down payment, and no payment for 90 days with your good credit. This offer ends 9/3/24. Come see us today and make it a Woody Anderson Ford. Hope to see you soon.
Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling sluggish? Gentlemen, Game Day Men's Health. Game Day Men's Health is here to help you. Braden is here. Braden, you've got the answers.
Thanks, Scott. Whether it's low T, erectile dysfunction, weight loss, or a number of other things, we have a solution for them.
It's Game Day Men's Health. Give them a call today at
256-850-1570.
You can find them online.
GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
Hey, what man wouldn't like to have tests done in a man cave?
That's right. Come in for your free test and consultation, walk into a world-class staff, a comfortable, relaxed environment, and we got your results in about 20 minutes with appointments less than an hour.
And the big game is always on the TV. It's Game Day Men's Health. Give them a call.
256-850-1570.
You can find them online at GameDayMen'sHealth.com/Huntsville/The Zone.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com.
All right, there you go. 7:50 Wednesday morning. Paul Feinbaum answering the burning question right now on SportsCenter. Is this season make or break for Ryan Day? That's a burning question that Paul Feinbaum is having to answer this morning. Is it a make or break season for one Ryan Day?
He's got a great record overall, but his big game record has been lacking, especially the last 3 or 4 years. And really, when you go back to the national championship game against Alabama, but of course their season was nearly canceled because of their idiotic leadership. But still, I mean, by Kevin Warren, who's now leading the Chicago Bears. So Bears fans, just keep that in mind.
56-8 in 6 seasons, but he's 2-4 in bowl games. Do you take much away from the bowl game record because bowl games don't mean as much?
Bowl games are harder to gauge because of opt-outs, but the biggest thing is he's lost 3 in a row to the Michigan Wolverines. So at least I believe that's correct.
Yeah. Let's go back out to the phone lines. Richard is with us. Good morning, Richard.
Morning, Richard.
Morning, guys. You mean Paul Feinbaum like 4 years ago that said Jim Harbaugh would never win a big game? That's Paul Feinbaum?
Hot take Feinbaum.
Yeah, I mean, just he knows about as much as me. But on the announcers, Jeff was talking about Munson, and I actually lived in Atlanta from '80 up until he retired. But most of these guys, and even the pros, they're for the home fan, the home team fan.
Yeah.
None of these guys may be that good, but you get used to them, and they're basically pulling for the home team just like you are. But if you're an opposing fan or a neutral fan,
right?
You're going to probably hate every one of them. I mean, even the guy up at for the Titans. I mean,
Mike Keith.
If you're pulling for the other team, you're going to hate him out. And a lot of these guys may not be as good as like a neutral, guy on an NFL game or MLB game, but like I said, most of these guys have been were there for Forney, Eli, Hawthorne, John Ward, these guys were there for years. And if you were, like I said, I listened to a lot of them as a neutral fan, and they were all, okay, but I wouldn't listen to them when Alabama was playing them to save my life.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing. A lot of these folks, you're not going to like them, and they may not be, perfect on down and distance. But like I said, they're there mainly, along with you, pulling for your team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, because I mean, like Munson, it wasn't anything to do with down and distance. I mean, he was begging for the Dogs to win.
He was, no doubt about it.
And like I said, a lot of these guys were there, a long, long time where the, fans grew up with them, listening to them. So now we kind of getting a new era for a lot of these guys, though, like you said, with Eli retiring and I guess the Hawthorne retired a couple of years ago.
He did. He certainly had a long run.
Several years ago. So a lot of these old time guys have, retired or passed away.
Yeah, Bob Kessling took over for
years. So
John. Yep.
Out. Yeah, that was just like I said. But like I said, you're pretty much you're going to hate any of them.
Yeah.
If
they're not your guy, you're going to dislike them.
Yeah, and I mean, like I've lived in Atlanta, for years, but it was Pete Van Wieren, Skip Perry, Ernie Johnson, Don Sutton, out in it wasn't like it is now, where you have all these different guys doing Braves games. Those four did every, they'd split the radio and TV, half and half. And so whether you were listening on the radio or watching on TV, you got those four every night for years and years. Out, got used to them, and it's like a lot of these announcers. So.
Yep. All right, Richard. Thanks for the phone call.
Okay, see you
Good
guys
stuff.
later.
Let's go to Jason real fast. Good morning, Jason.
Morning.
Hey, morning. Otter, there's a basketball player, Jasper Johnson, out of Lexington, Kentucky. What's Alabama's chances with him, Drew?
I think they've got a really good shot. His top three is Alabama, North Carolina, and Kentucky. But he's tight with Brandon Miller. I think Preston Murphy's done a good job with him. Certainly UK is not going away. UK was third for a long time, made a big push, and they're certainly still in it. So is North Carolina. But I think Alabama has done a consistent job. Guys like Travis Branham, who monitors this every day, have thought that Alabama was in the lead for a while. Now we'll see if that continues. We know with NIL, things can change, but Alabama certainly beefed up their NIL, and word seems to be that Jasper's going to make a decision soon. But he had a great time on his official visit, and I think no doubt that he's a special talent, a five-star guy that Alabama would like to be the cornerstone of their 25 class. They don't have any commitments right now, but he's the guy that Alabama's kind of been mentioned with the most.
Yeah, there's another player, Allison, that reclassified about 6'9". Alabama can get with it too. I can't remember the last name. He's got a long last name.
It's probably AJ DeMonista. I don't know that I can be pronouncing that correctly, but he's at a prep school in Utah. I think BYU might have an edge there with their new coach with the NBA ties, and he miraculously ended up out there in Utah playing prep school ball. But he's had Alabama and Auburn in his top six for a while. Both of them have been involved with him, and I know Alabama's had him on campus. I think Bruce Pearl's had him on campus on the Plains as well. They're certainly still in there fighting. But I think I would, if you had to ask me right now, I would say BYU probably had the edge.
Okay. I was just interested.
Right. No doubt.
Thank you.
No problem.
Right, thanks, Jason. All right, we are just about done with hour one here on Talking Ball. When we come back to kick off hour number two, Alex Scarborough going to join the conversation, talk a little Alabama football and some recruiting there. We mentioned the burning questions. One of them was right before they on SportsCenter this morning, or whatever they want to call that show. The question was, can Alabama win a national championship without Nick Saban? And the response was no, they cannot win one without Nick Saban. But remember, going into the recruiting season, it was, can Alabama recruit at a high level without Nick Saban? And a lot of people outside of the footprint was like, no, Kalen DeBoer cannot recruit because he's not from the South. He's never been in the South. You can't come from the West Coast and recruit in the South. Well, he's done it. How has he done it? Alex Scarborough will help us out next.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Check out VSiN's catalog of original podcasts, daily and weekly programming to keep you in the know when you're on the go. Only at VSIN.com. Now, here are the latest lines from my guys in the desert.
In 10 innings in San Francisco, the Braves outlasted the Giants 4-3. Travis d'Arnaud homered early and hit an RBI single in the 10th that sent Atlanta to the win. Ramon Laureano also went deep. Austin Riley singled twice, leading Atlanta to its second consecutive win over the Giants in extra innings. The Braves beat San Francisco 1-0 in 10 innings on d'Arnaud's sac fly in the series opener Monday. The Braves are 6 games out of first place in the NL East, chasing division-leading Philadelphia. As far as the wild card race, Atlanta owns the third and final wild card in the NL, with New York 2 games behind them. Tonight, Atlanta even on the money line. Grant Holmes gets the start. Robbie Ray starts for the Giants at -120 in the money line. That's the VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. I'm Chuck Sanders.
WCZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
SportsMed is the official team physicians of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. And if the pros trust SportsMed, you can too. SportsMed provides every service you might need for complete orthopedic care, specializing in orthopedic surgery, sports medicine, joint replacement, spine surgery, neurosurgery, and podiatry. And they offer their own brace shop, in-house full-body MRI, physical therapy, walk-in clinic, and so much more. 4 locations and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com.
This hour brought to you by SportsMed Orthopedic and Spine Center. Online at sportsmedalabama.com. Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball, Hour 2. 16 more minutes of entertainment for you here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. True entertainment.
We had some this morning. We never lack for it. At least it seems that way. You know what I'm saying?
Well, a lot of it is provided by. Well, that's what the idea of
WWE Jeff.
Yes. I don't know if he sits there and says, "Well, you know what? I'm thinking this might be a moronic take, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it," or if he actually believes.
No, he believes a lot of
that
it.
He's saying,
especially from a Kentucky perspective, and then hating people that beat Kentucky like a rented mule.
All right, this one segment brought to you by our good friends, SportsMed Orthopedic Surgery and Spine Center. They are dedicated to helping you. They're dedicated to providing care that improves lives. You can give them a call, 256-881-5151. You too can experience that SportsMed difference. Hey, we always say it, and it sounds like a broken record, but they are the official training providers of the Rocket City Trash Pandas, as well as the UAH Chargers, all of which have homes here at 97.7 ESPN The Zone. We talked about it to end hour number 1. Kalen DeBoer was not told, but it was mentioned that why would you hire a coach from the West Coast? He can't recruit in the South.
Well, why would LSU hire Nick Saban? He's never coached in the South before at all. All he'd ever done is been head coach at Toledo. All he'd ever done is go to Michigan State. Didn't have any ties to the South. Grew up in West Virginia. What could he possibly do?
Exactly. So why would you do it? Why would you do it? Well, I mean, I think it's worked out well for Alabama on the recruiting front. Think so, right? I mean, safe to say. Now, we got the game stuff to come, but that'll all fall in line. But recruiting-wise, he's done everything that he's supposed to do.
He has, and our next guest does a great job with Bama 247 covering the Alabama beat. For over a decade, he was with ESPN covering Alabama and the SEC. And he had a piece yesterday where he'd had a chance to sit down with Kalen DeBoer, talk about building this roster in advance before his first season, how they retained it, how they've approached the recruiting process since he arrived from the West Coast. We always enjoy our discussions with him. And, of course, Alex Scarborough has been kind enough to join us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. And hopefully we didn't blow out his phone or something when I was ranting there. But, Alex, good morning. You're with Drew and Scott. How are you?
I'm doing well, and don't regret yelling there, because trust me, I've been there before with this whole "he's not from here" debate.
Yes,
It's the silliest thing in sports. It's not where you're from. It's how much effort you put into it. Always been the most important thing. And the great ones, they put a ton of effort into recruiting, and it pays off.
Well, and Alex, you've probably heard the same thing. You've been everywhere in the league. I always heard the story of when Nick Saban interviewed for the job at LSU. Everybody has probably forgotten how bad the program was when he took it over. They had a decade plus of just and we've had Curly Hallman on the show, but for whatever reason, Curly couldn't get over the hump. But Nick Saban was basically interviewing LSU instead of them interviewing him. He had everything written down. He knew what his plan was. He wanted to see how committed they were.
Mm-hmm. That's Nick.
Yeah,
that's Nick, the most committed man in football history, in terms of just bringing knowledge and the right questions to the table. And he knew what we know now because it's been repeated over and over and over again. And it's true. Louisiana produces the highest per capita NFL players in the country. He knew what was sitting there, and you don't have an in-state, a real in-state, Power 5 program to deal with. It was a gold mine, and the only question was, ready to do what it takes? And I think that same question was a question that was repeated when he arrived to Alabama in another form. You ready? Because we're gonna take off. It's like the old, the story Mal Moore would tell about coming over on the plane with Nick and tell him what a great coach he was, and Nick saying, "I'm not a great coach. I get great players. That's what I do."
I love the article on this recruiting thing on the recruiting efforts of Kalen DeBoer. And what I loved about it is the fact that a lot of times college football coaches are so set in their ways that they're going to do exactly what they did at one school and they're going to take it to another one. And that's all they're going to do. They're not going to evolve. They're not going to change. But what I read and what I took away was that Kalen DeBoer knew they were behind, but they also knew there were areas that they have never been to that they had to really excel and work hard and get into areas where they were not familiar with. They couldn't just rely on areas that they'd used before because they knew how important and how big it was to recruit at Alabama.
Yeah, and it started strategically with assembling the staff, right? It starts with retaining pieces like Bob Welton, director of player personnel. It starts with retaining Robert Gillespie and Freddie Roach, two of the best assistants on Nick Saban's staff. The two, if you're going to keep any, those were the two you're going to keep, and they just so happen to be two of your best recruiters. And then it's being very intentional in terms of laying out what the plan is going to be. There's very easily a path where you come in as the new head coach at Alabama or wherever, and you feel like, oh my God, I got to get 10 commits right off the bat because I have to establish momentum. And they said, no, that's not what we do. What we do is we have kids on multiple visits before we even think about taking a commit. And it's my understanding there were guys who wanted to commit and they told them, no, you got to wait, because they wanted to make sure the fit was right. They wanted to make sure a commitment would stick. And it was about, going into places like Mississippi, going into places like Georgia, going into places like Mobile, and establishing those relationships in a hurry. Kane Womack, another guy, very strategically has those ties to South Alabama and a pre-existing relationship with Kalen DeBoer. But I think the most important thing he did was, frankly, not thumb his nose at what he had before. It wasn't turning your back on the relationships you had pre-existing. I think it would have been the most foolish thing in the world to say, I'm in Alabama now, I don't recruit California. Well, why in the heck would you do that if the guys in California are really good?
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep those relationships. You have them come visit and say, man, look what we got now. And that's why you end up with a kid like Dejon Lee. That's why you end up with these players. It was a balance. And that's the thing that it strikes me in all areas of the program, that Kalen is all about balance. It's not just my way of doing things, my relationships. It's I'm going to hold on to this that I know and that I like, and I'm going to bring in this thing that I maybe don't know so well, but I'm going to work my butt off at it, and it's going to pay off.
I completely agree, no doubt about it. And the thing about the article that I thought was fascinating too is that he never really gave a formal invitation to Courtney Morgan. It was just implied and assumed that Courtney would follow him to Alabama, which I thought was very interesting, especially when you heard, or as fall camp started, USC kind of trying to backdoor the deal and hire Courtney Morgan away because their recruiting wasn't going as they had hoped.
Yeah, that kind of bubbled up, but yeah, it speaks, I think, to the relationship that Courtney and Kalen have, in the understanding that they each bring something significant to the table. That it's almost just a look like, duh, you're coming with me. Like, not even a question. Like, we're going to go to Alabama. Like, you thought it was fun to recruit Washington. Go recruit Alabama, where you can walk in any door and it opens for you. That relationship's really strong. The trust is really strong. And I think what it does is it just sets up organizationally where if you're a head coach and you've got your fingers on literally everything and you're trying to, deal with visits and all these other things, it's too much in today's game. So having a guy like Courtney who you trust to kind of oversee the entire recruiting operation, it's huge. And we saw what they were able to do with the roster at Washington. Why wouldn't you want to bring Courtney to Alabama and, again, upgrade his car a little bit, let him drive a little faster? And we see, again, like I think people need to take a step back. We're 7 months into a tenure of a coaching staff that doesn't have a ton of ties, doesn't have a history of recruiting at an elite level because of where they've been. They're number 2 in the country right now. In terms of their class ranking. That's flat out insane.
Well, and this is why, though, Alex, I think this job is going to be a tough one, because you mentioned just 7 months in. This is that whole thing. We knew it was coming. The constant comparison to Nick Saban with every step Kalen DeBoer takes, every recruit, every recruiting class, every practice, everything is going to be constantly compared to Nick Saban. But it seems like Kalen DeBoer is, even in this recruiting article, very comfortable in handling all of those minute by minute comparisons.
Oh, absolutely. And again, the thing I go back to is this is not his first rodeo. It's the biggest one he's ever been to. But he followed his mentor and father figure in Bob Young at Sioux Falls. He goes to Fresno as a head coach, where Jeff Tedford, who he coached for before, had to step away for health reasons, but was still around. He was at Washington, where Chris Peterson was very much around and is an icon in that program, just like Don James is. Like, he's been in situations before where if you're paranoid, if you're insecure, you would look at it like, oh my God, there's somebody over my shoulder. He doesn't look at it that way. He's just going to be who he is. And that's the term that keeps coming up over and over and over again in talking to folks inside and outside of the program. It's just, there's this quiet confidence about him that he just doesn't get rattled by those things. He didn't get rattled when people were really antsy 6 months ago because they weren't even in the top 25 in recruiting. He's not going to get rattled when people are like, oh my God, why are we recruiting in state like we're used to? Not going to panic. He's got a plan and he's going to stick to it. And you know what? The plan is working.
And we're talking to Alex Scarborough, Bama 247. That's a good segue. You brought up in the piece, and there's been a lot of gnashing of teeth in the state on the Alabama side because Hugh Freeze is doing a great job. He had a top 10 class last year in his first full cycle. This is his second. They've got 8 of the top 10, top prospects in the state committed right now. But you broached that with Kalen DeBoer about how they're approaching in-state recruiting, and I thought he had some interesting things to say.
Yeah, it's a priority. There is no doubt about it that they want to recruit their backyard. He knows it starts there. But he also, again, there's that balance of, look, I've got pre-existing relationships with really good players that I can go get. It would be one thing if the players weren't comparable or if the players again weren't flat out better. And on top of that, let's just be blunt. It'd be another thing if they were recruiting these guys and not getting them. They're not swinging and missing. But that's me saying that. Kalen is saying, look, it's a priority. They're going to keep doing it. But they think they're a nationwide recruiting program. That starts in the Southeast. That starts in the state of Alabama. That's why they went into Mississippi and got a Caleb Cunningham. That's why they went into Georgia and got a couple of really good linebackers. Like, they're going to be able to do that. It's just going to take time. It's insane to me that this is a point of contention with some Alabama fans. I get it. It's your own state. You got to argue with your neighbor. Auburn's over there claiming wins against Nick Saban that didn't happen because they almost happened. They're going to get the state recruiting title, which means absolutely nothing. Like, it's a nice thing to get those guys, but at the end of the day, you want to get the best assemblage of players, and they're in that position, and they're ahead of Auburn. What is there to worry about?
And I think also, and you brought it up earlier in the segment, when you talked about the retention of Robert Gillespie at running back coach and Freddie Roach on the defensive line, it also, and you implied in the piece about retaining your current roster. And it just so happens the defensive line had a lot of talent returning and had a chance to be deep. And then I know you guys had a chance to speak to LT Overton after his big scrimmage on Saturday. He spoke to the media this week. One of the things he said was that one of the biggest reasons that he came to Alabama and then stayed was Freddie Roach coming back. And then, of course, with Robert Gillespie, you just so happen to have Jam Miller and Justice Haynes and Richard Young on the roster already.
Yeah, and you might have, and by might I mean they're probably going to have a really good running back commit here any day now. I mean, it's going to round out, and they're not. Again, you got to dig a little bit deeper, and like you're talking about, they're not going to be in a position where they're hurting for defensive linemen next season. You know, that probably means next year's class is probably going to be heavy in defensive line, just like this year's class is heavy in linebacker. You've got to foresee your needs, but that's also foreseeing that, hey, we don't have a need here. So if there's not a defensive lineman we really are tripping over ourselves to go get, we're not going to worry about it. There's not a running back that we feel like we absolutely have to have. We're going to be choosy in that respect. So there's context here, and it is really important to consider because I get it. I live in Birmingham. You know, there's Auburn fans next to Alabama fans, and they can argue about everything until the sun goes down, and then they're going to keep arguing. But there's points in this to consider, and it's worth remembering. Roster breakdown, the players are getting in. They're in a really good spot, and I think they're addressing the needs that they need to do. They're going to top off with a few more players here down the stretch. Who knows what it looks like by actual signing day, but they're in a really good spot.
They are. And speaking of that, before we let you go, your thoughts and takes on the buzz you're hearing after scrimmage one. And then, of course, there was the fan day, practice that was open, where they cleaned some things up. And now they're going into scrimmage two, heading into Saturday. Sounds like, according to what Kalen said to you guys as he wrapped up scrimmage one, might not be as heavy coming up for the second and final one of fall camp. But your thoughts on where Alabama stands right now?
They're in a good spot, and I think a name that's really important is the one you already brought up, the LT Overton. They need to find guys who can make plays along the defensive line, along the edge, and get pressure on the quarterback. You'd like to see another name or two emerge because you do have, again, the domino effect of that, a secondary that is basically almost entirely new. Even, when you count Malachi Moore changing positions. So you want to see some guys bubble up there. So LT Overton, bubbling up is a big thing. Ryan Williams continuing to make plays, always exciting. Offensive line feels like it's coming into a picture. I think what you want to see coming out of scrimmage two and really going into it is, okay, we've done our rotations. We've tried to cross-train guys. We got to figure out who our starting 11 is on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And we just got to go out there and play and build that chemistry and really drill down on the finer points because the season's only a couple of weeks away. So you want to see guys continue to make plays. And like I said, for my part, still continuing to look at, okay, what's the right tackle position look like? And who are those guys who can pressure the quarterback? Because they're going to need to answer both of those questions.
Well, great stuff as always from Alex Scarborough. Please check out his long-form article as he sat down with Kalen DeBoer, talked about the recruiting process, building this roster. He and the entire staff over at Bama 247 do a great job covering fall camp and Alabama football and athletics, and let everybody know how to connect with you, sir.
Yeah, you can go Twitter or X or whatever the heck we're calling it today. Handle is by Scarborough, but the best way to do is just go find the Alabama 247 Sports page. As you mentioned, it's not just me. It's Mike Rodak. It's Cody Goodwin. It's Kirk McNair. It's Brett Greenberg, who does a terrific job covering recruiting every single day. It's everything you need and more, I'd argue. And we've always got a sale going on, so go sign up.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Great work.
My pleasure.
Let's get a break in. Good stuff there. 256-576-4977. You want to join the program, feel free to do so. College football conversation continues.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Haven't picked up anything new accident-wise. We should be in good shape there. Last reported wreck was that one in Decatur at Wilson and McCartney. That one reported with an injury. And we've been having problems this morning with the traffic signal, Mooresville and Greenbrier. HPD may still be directing traffic there. Do you know who to call when you need a heart doctor? You could write this name down now so you have it in the future. Dr. Randall Burns is at Huntsville Heart Specialist on Bob Wallace Avenue. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Celebrate and honor those who have served our country. The annual Military Tribute Night at Toyota Field is Saturday, September 14th. For the 5th straight year, the USA Patriots amputee softball team will square off with the local veterans of AUSA. The patriotic extravaganza will be capped off by a post-game fireworks spectacular. Tickets are $10. Get yours at trashpandasbaseball.com/events.
Specializing in simple and affordable rentals, McCurry Van and Car Rental can make sure you have just the right vehicle for your next family vacation, weekend getaway, or if you just need transportation while your vehicle is being repaired. McCurry carries Ford Transit vans and Mercedes Sprinter vans, trucks and work vans, and more. And they offer discounted rental rates for long-term rentals. Now with 4 locations: Athens, Muscle Shoals, Coleman, and Huntsville. Log on McCurryRentals.com to make your reservation now. That's McCurryRentals.com. No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
This is Wes Neighbors sitting here with Stan McDonald. Stan, tell everybody why you're the best damn dirt lawyer in North Alabama.
Yes, Wes, at Jacob Title and the Stanton Law Firm. You know I'm a dirt lawyer, and a lot of our friends know that, which means we specialize in real estate. Now, if you own real estate or you're buying it or you're selling it, you need to do a closing, but a lot of times there's legal issues associated with that. We're a great group to talk to. My son, Lewis McDonald, heads our commercial closing division, and we approach your real estate needs very seriously. We seek to be the premier real estate closing company in North Alabama, and we do it in such a way it shows that we're experienced, we're for your success. We like to handle your real estate needs the same way Coach Dan Reeves used to say, never let them see you sweat. And that's going to be to your benefit, too, when you visit us at Jacob Title and the Stanton Law Firm. Our website online is jacobtitle.com.
Embark on a flavorful journey at the Brewers Cooperative. Located within the vibrant community hub of Stovehouse in Huntsville, our brewery isn't just about crafting exceptional beers. It's a destination where culinary delights and local brews harmonize. Whether you're seeking a laid-back lunch or a lively dinner with friends, our diverse menu has something to please every palate. With a commitment to quality and a passion for innovation, we invite you to savor the unique flavors of Huntsville's craft beer scene at the Brewers Cooperative. Call 256-678-7036. The Brewers Cooperative.
Looking for your next adventure to be out of this world but don't have enough money to buy a spaceship and leave orbit? Well, look no further than Divergence VR theme park off of Governor's Drive Southwest in Huntsville, Alabama. Are zombies more your style? How about driving your favorite cars on the world's fastest track? Or maybe a gorilla game that has you climbing up tall trees to escape other gorillas? Wait, that's actually a thing? Huh. Would you look at that? For whatever adventure you can dream of, call 256-203-4128 to get your VR adventure started now.
I wanna thank you. Thank you for making us your #1 choice for sports talk in North Alabama.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. Welcome back into the program on a, let's see here, Wednesday morning.
Right.
8:23. That's the time. And
not 9:23. You were in the Eastern time zone last week.
Yes, not today. What I do know today is that the Tennessee Volunteers, they did scrimmage over the weekend. And Josh
on Eastern time.
Yep, we've not had a chance to hear from Josh Heupel. He loved his defensive effort from his team.
There's going to be give and take, or hopefully there's give and take. In particular, though, I thought our defense played extremely hard, played really physical. Early in the scrimmage, did a great job on third downs. Our front four, relentless. I thought our secondary played really well early in the scrimmage as well. Really, really pleased with how they started.
Been a lot of talk about the Tennessee offense and Nico coming in, settling in as quarterback there, the expectations, because Josh Heupel's an offensive guy. But it's the Tennessee Vols defense that is going to have to answer a lot of the questions on how far this Tennessee team goes.
Yeah, no question about it. Tennessee's got high expectations with Nico Iamaleava, and he's probably the most hyped quarterback since Peyton Manning, even more so than Hendon Hooker, who came back for his senior season, as we all remember, and really was the best QB since Peyton had been in town. He led them to that win led by Mo, Larry, and Curley over Alabama, but he did play extremely well against the Tide and had a really good year that year until he suffered that unfortunate ACL injury and what would have been a losing effort regardless against South Carolina. But again, had a great year, still in the National Football League, of course, and could develop into that starting quarterback. We'll see in QB1 in the National Football League. I still think he has a chance to. I think that much of him as a player, but Nico's been hyped since he's been there. I never really understood Joe Milton, even though he could run fast and throw it a long ways. I always thought he was sort of lacking up top, and that ended up being the case. He had a good year at Tennessee, far from great. Got drafted by the Patriots in the 6th round, I believe, and is going to be a tight end, not even a quarterback. But I do think Nico showed a lot against your Hawkeyes in the bowl game. And again, it's hard because a lot of opt-outs, things of that nature, but he played well, and they're going to build the offense around him. Dylan Sampson, maybe we're going to talk to Vince Ferrara on Friday and get his camp update and see the buzz he's hearing. What's the running game look like? Because Tennessee ran the football exceptionally well last year. How's that receiver core with Brew McCoy healthy now? Squirrel White, how is it coming into shape? It's Mike Matthews, the 5-star freshman. How's he looking? And then you heard Josh Heupel talk about the front four, and they've got the veteran D-line coach Rodney Garner, who's recruited and put together great D-lines in the SEC at Auburn, Georgia, and Tennessee. I mean, he's a veteran. So is this going to be Tennessee's deepest D-line since Josh Heupel's been there? I think that was kind of the consensus in Dallas, and Vince told us that on Radio Row. But going to be good to catch up with him and see kind of where the Vols are heading into their season. Got them outside the playoff by just a little bit, number 6 overall in the SEC, but certainly believe they have the talent to contend for a college football playoff berth. And I know that's the expectation in Knoxville that I hope they don't meet.
All right, speaking of defense, Deontay Lawson met with some reporters yesterday as well. And here's a little bit of Deontay Lawson and the Alabama defense and just how comfortable he feels in the Kane Womack system.
Just go out there, be a football player, fly around. I feel like this defense is made for inside backers, and that makes me happy. You could just fly around, know your job, and just compete at the highest level.
And the question that he was asked was, playing in a Nick Saban defense where you have to constantly think a lot and do a lot of different things in your head, going to a Kane Womack system where you're playing a little bit more free.
Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's certainly going to be an offense that's more QB oriented. And again, when Nick Saban had Bryce Young, when he had Mac Jones, when he had Tua, and even Jalen Hurts to a degree, especially as Jalen progressed. Certainly it became more of a quarterback-oriented system, and they threw the football more. But, last year Milroe was still developing, and they put more on him, I think, as the year went on. I think they still depended on the running game, though. It was a little bit like when Jalen first took over at QB. And I'm talking about Hurts, pardon me, in 2016, because again, last year was Jalen Milroe's first full year as a starting quarterback since high school. So they were still trying to bring him along, and we know he got off to a slow start. But with what Tommy Rees and Coach Saban did last year, they brought him along as the season went on. He became more of a willing runner, which we talked about was going to be a key to it. He did a good job protecting the football for the most part, didn't turn it over. Probably wasn't as efficient in the passing game as they wanted, but made a lot of big plays and made them in clutch moments. Just think about the Iron Bowl. Just think about Georgia and bringing Alabama back in that game. So he had some very bright moments last year and should be, as he's continued to evolve and develop under this new staff, ready to take on a larger role.
And this was Deontay Lawson that we just heard from, and he was talking about the defense too. He was talking about the defense being able to play a little bit more free under Kane Womack's system versus that Nick Saban defense, where it was a lot. You got to be smart to play that Nick Saban defense.
You did, and I think it's going to help Deontay because I think this scheme is going to be simplified, but he's played in an NFL scheme, his entire career. And I listened to his interview yesterday. You can understand how his football intellect and how smart he is. Speaks very, very well. You can tell he's a sharp guy. He's a leader. He had a really good high school coach in Ronnie Cottrell and played at a very good program in Mobile Christian. He even kind of referenced his hometown when he was talking about. They asked about Ryan Williams and his impact because they're from the same Mobile area. And speaking of that, we're going to talk to Corey LeBounty in a few minutes about Ryan Williams and his potential impact at Alabama and Kane Womack. Because don't forget, Kane spent the last several years as the head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars and leading them back to being a contending program in the Sun Belt Conference. But, yeah, I mean, there's no question. I think Deontay he and Jihad Campbell, who is made that transition from outside linebacker in high school to inside backer at Alabama and has had to – pay more attention to detail, from the standpoint of mentally. But I think, Kane Womack is doing a good job with those two guys, and that's going to be your combination. But don't forget about this guy too, who I've been hearing has had a great camp. He played some a year ago, mostly special teams, but he came over. He's from the Mississippi JUCO system. That's Justin Jefferson. Can really, really run. He's a guy. It's probably the fastest linebacker on the team, and probably even counting outside backers. He can run a true 4.4, but just needed to understand what how to operate within the scheme. And then when you're coming from JUCO and you're having to attack a Nick Saban type system, that can be difficult at times. But a lot of times with junior college players, that second year, much like a portal transfer, is the best. And I think Justin Jefferson could play a much bigger role this year for the Tide.
Let's get a break in. Corey LeBounty will join us on the flip side. It's Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. A partly sunny sky this afternoon, maybe a couple of isolated showers across North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee. Otherwise, it is going to be relatively hot and relatively humid. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid 90s. We're dropping into the upper 60s, lower 70s as we head into the overnight. A mostly sunny to partly sunny sky for your Thursday afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the mid and upper 90s. It is going to feel like it is in the lower triple digits. Isolated, widely scattered showers and thunderstorms are going to be possible, but it does look like the vast majority of us are going to stay dry. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Got a wreck in Athens, 31 at 2:51. Sounds like that one's going to be a no injury. Had Wilson and McCartney in Decatur that should be clear. And we got a traffic signal problem, Mooresville and Greenbrier, that may still be causing some headaches. No hose, no mask. You can ask Dr. Sandman, that's Dr. Sandlin, for the medically proven benefits of the Somnodent for sleep apnea and for snoring. Dr. Sandlin, 350-CARE. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Normally, when you call a roofing company, all you hear is you need a new roof, not when you call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Since 1965, the folks at Fleming have been focused on what you need, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement, commercial or residential. And when it comes to storm damage, you want Fleming on your side. They know all the ins and outs of insurance claims and will guide you through the entire process. Log on FlemingHSV.com and book your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Hey, go. Welcome back. 8:34, Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Coming up here in just a few seconds, Corey Labonte will join the program as we kind of highlight a little bit of some more Alabama football. One of the things that we have heard is Ryan Williams. We've heard his name a bunch.
Yep,
And
since the last 2 years in high school, and then
college freshmen.
Right.
Normally, it's very rare. I think it's rare that you have a college freshman that comes in and makes a huge impact. I mean, a ginormous impact in a game. Ryan Williams has that ability for Alabama to come in and make a huge impact. Deontay Lawson in his interview said that he was so impressed with the route running, the way that he's able to decipher if it's man, if it's zone coverage, what it is. And that speaks a lot about a college freshman that can come in and do that with limited amount of practices.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, there's no question that Ryan Williams is a special talent. And as we were talking to Alex Scarborough about the beginning of the Kalen DeBoer era and when he started attacking recruiting and how he did it, one of the first big things he did, Scott, besides put that staff together and retain his current roster, is he was able to salvage the relationship with Ryan Williams and his father, who played at Auburn, ironically, before going into the junior college system and finishing his career elsewhere, as a collegiate athlete. That relationship had been built by Nick Saban and his staff since Ryan had kind of burst onto the scene as a sophomore. He'd been committed to Alabama a long time, but he decommitted just, hours after Nick Saban retired. So Auburn had a long-time relationship with him. So did Texas. Texas was trying to get him on campus desperately. So was Lincoln Sharman, a.k.a. Riley at USC. I mean, the kid could have gone anywhere in the country. He was that kind of elite talent. And it was pretty much well known, and we can ask our next guest about it, about him reclassifying. It was something that had been known. And our next guest had sat down with him, had him in studio over at WNSP, and does a great job with their evening drive program over there. Been honored to be a part of his radio program as he has risen in the profession. And we really enjoyed the catching up with him. We saw him in Dallas. He certainly had a great week there representing the Port City. And now we have Corey Labonte, who's agreed to join us here this morning for a few minutes on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline to talk about a couple of guys with close ties to that community that he's been able to cover. And he's joining us right now. Corey, good morning. You're with Drew and Scott. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I hope all is well in you guys neck of the woods.
It really is. And I know this time, really a year ago, they were coming off a state championship. I know you had Ryan Williams in studio, and you guys had a chance to see him live and cover him throughout his 3 seasons in high school football. The amazing thing is he's supposed to be a senior. You probably would have had him once again in studios, have been covering that program very closely. You still will, but he would have been a big part of that. Would have been trying to be, almost a 3-time Mr. Football, which is unheard of in the state of Alabama. Certainly would have been a huge favorite for that award. Saraland likely would have been the 6A favorite with KJ Lacey back to win a state championship. But just talk about Ryan Williams, and you've had a chance to be around him. The thing I always hear is kind of uncommon maturity. We've heard some of his teammates, including Deontay Lawson, who's from your area, as well, from Mobile Christian, talking about the impact he's already had in practice. You're hearing a lot of the same buzz we are, but talk about Ryan Williams and being around him and kind of the mindset that he's got, Corey.
Well, yeah, first and foremost, Ryan Hollywood Williams, you look at his age, making the decisions that he had to make as a 16-year-old, now 17-year-old on campus with 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old grown men. And you can see from Ryan's development at Saraland High School the great person that he is, the high character value that he brings to the table to the University of Alabama. I mean, you're not going to have off-the-field issues with Ryan. He is a tremendous people's person. I saw this weekend when the fans had a chance to talk to him, there was a Mountain Brook fan that came up to his table. Look, I watched you beat our team at Mountain Brook. He said, no, we're on the same team now. So that's the kind of guy that Ryan Williams, and the type of comedy and explosiveness that he has, not only on the field, but he's a jokester off of the field. And didn't get a chance to see him because he wasn't an early enrollee in the spring, but all eyes have definitely been on the new deuce for the Crimson Tide and Ryan Williams. And he's just a tremendous young man on the field and off of the field. And I do believe that we will continue to see a lot of Ryan Williams, not only in the first game, but come first SEC game. Ryan's the type of guy that can take the top off of the football for Jalen Milroe and just adds that explosiveness that all defenses will be fearing.
What should be a realistic expectation then for Ryan Williams this fall?
That's a great question. In regards to his expectations hitting campus back in May or June and getting acclimated to the college game, the speed and the routes and the quarterback and the newness of everything. If you come in game one and you're able to get maybe 4 targets and a couple of catches to get your confidence going, that's a great sign. I think by that 4th game, when you see him play in the Georgia Bulldogs, you get him targeted 5 or 6 times, and the rack yards, the yards after catch is what I'm really going to be looking forward to seeing from Ryan, because you look at his frame and, you know, he's taken a lot of heat, not only in high school, but moving on to this next level about his frame and his weight. But you can't catch Ryan Williams if he's running by you with these tremendous routes. So as his route running continues to improve and the timing gets better with Jalen Milroe, I think that the expectations can be targeted maybe at him having 4 targets or 5 targets a game and seeing how many yards and how much explosiveness he can make out of those 4 or 5 attempts in their first 3 or 4 games.
And then we've seen the creative play calling with Kalen DeBoer and how Doomsday developed. They developed a first, second, and third round pick at receiver. I'm also going to be interested to see if Ryan's involved in kickoff or punt return. I know certainly he was at Saraland, and in many cases teams didn't kick to him. Unfortunately, Clay Chalkville did last year, and they paid for it, though they ended up winning the football game. But it'll be. I'm interested to see how creative they get with getting Ryan Williams the football, because I've kind of compared him. And it's 2 all-time greats. I've compared him to Devontae Smith because you see the slightness in frame, but you see his ability to run routes and separate, which you just brought up, Corey. But I also bring up, and the reason he's wearing number 2 is David Palmer. He has some of that magic, that elusiveness, and ability to make you miss in a phone book that it's just not really a thing that you can coach.
No, I mean, his start to stop and his burst and his acceleration off of a dead stop is unbelievable. And his way to accelerate after he makes you miss after the tackle is unlike anything we've ever seen. I mean, just think about it. 2 years ago, being the first ever sophomore in the state of Alabama's football history to win Mr. Football, and then to follow that up again with another Mr. Football and become the state's first ever back-to-back. Yes, that was him being a man among boys at the high school level, but he also did it at the championship level. So I think that he just continues to carry over the workload. One thing about Ryan Williams, Hollywood's going to put the work in. There is no ego. There is no, me over we. He is all about whatever he needs to do to help the team win. And they say speed kills. Ryan will be able to hurt opponents with the great speed that he has. And he's just a great teammate as well. And that's attributed to his folks that raised him the right way.
A lot of people want to compare him to another receiver that came out of that area in Julio Jones.
I think it's an unfair comparison. Different type frames. Julio definitely, he fit that, 6'4", 6'5", grown man frame coming out of Foley High School. And, Julio was a dual sport athlete as well, playing basketball and track. And Ryan was running track up to last year, part of, one of the best 100-meter runners in the state. But, I don't like the comparison to Julio Jones because Julio, again, a freakazoid in regards to his body frame and just being physically ready to take those yards after contact, to take the hit. But I do believe the speed that Ryan has is unlike we saw with Julio. And Julio's hops. I mean, you could throw a ball up there and Julio could go get it. Ryan can do so too, like we saw Devontae Smith-Smitty do at times, like during the Heisman Trophy year with LSU, one-handed catches. The catch radius is definitely there. The leaping ability is there for Ryan. But Julio, to me, was and is in a class of himself.
He really is, no doubt, and his impact, it was immeasurable and set the tone for Nick Saban. We'll see if Ryan Williams can do the same thing for Kalen DeBoer. But certainly, I know you being down there and being able to see him week in and week out, cover him, I don't think it was a surprise to anyone that he reclassified. And then to see how he seamlessly became MVP of the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, a game he didn't have to play in, but he certainly decided to, and then to go score a touchdown in the Under Armour game and make a big impact, that's some uncommon maturity. And I think we started to early on to see that he was going to be able to make this jump, and I think he's going to, even though he should be a senior in high school, Corey.
And that's what's remarkable. Again, you look at it being at 16 years of age when he was accomplishing those things, the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, along with the Under Armour game, and really having to walk the halls of Saraland High School this year if he wanted to. And you just look at him continuing to get in the strength and conditioning program, continue to get acclimated and adapted to the speed of the collegiate game, and not only getting in his playbook, getting the timing right with Milroe. And you're going to see him on the field in multiple ways because you can't keep that type of five-star player hidden on the sidelines because he is going to quickly become a fan favorite. All Ryan Williams has to do, and I say all he has to do, the biggest thing is just keeping Ryan healthy because his explosiveness, his twitch is unlike anything we've seen here from a high school standpoint for sure.
And
yeah, you also have had a good look, up and close look at Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator for Alabama. We just heard from Deontay Lawson, who said, hey, look, that Nick Saban's defense was great. It was fantastic. It was a lot to process. This defense, he feels, is built for the linebacker spot because they're able to play a little bit different, play a little bit what he called a little bit free movement there.
I love Kane Womack's implementation of the 4-2-5 defense coming in. It's going to take fans a little bit longer to get accustomed and adjusted to, and I'm quite sure Kane is going to take his lumps in regards to how the defense is scrutinized because over the past years of decades of dominance, you've seen the defense just be at the meat and potatoes of Alabama's success. And getting the front four is going to be so very important for the Crimson Tide. And Kane Womack is the four that he has in front of Deontay Lawson. You got the back end with the quarterback and Malachi Moore running things. But Kane, he's very, very explosive on the sidelines. He's energetic on the sidelines. He's energetic in practice. And that kind of attitude it bleeds over to the players. And it's contagious. And I think that his excitement, his knowledge of football, the way he coaches it, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. The players are playing loose. The tackling has to continue to improve, as he mentioned in his press conference. But Deontay Lawson helping anchor that defense, 251 Mobilian, and Kane Womack really have enjoyed watching him, not only at Indiana, but when he came over here to South Alabama and got things done from a defensive side of things as well.
Well, Scott and I are good friends, and we know John Summerall very well, and he had a great 2-year run at Troy. But some of those matchups with South Alabama and the Sun Belt, they were like rock fights, man. Those are some defensive slugfests between John and Kane.
Yeah, I mean, if you want the blueprint for what a Kane Womack defense can look like, you look at the absolutely tail kicking they put on Oklahoma State in Stillwater last year. I mean, this is the blueprint for what you can see, the maxing out of a Kane Womack's defense. It's never easy to win in Stillwater, but to go and absolutely dominate that game, not only offensively, but defensively as well, and hold one of the nation's most explosive offenses to their lowest point total and make people in Stillwater say, man, who is South Alabama? Where is South Alabama? That is the blueprint on what to expect week in and week out from a Kane Womack defense.
That's great stuff from Corey LeBounty. You can hear him each and every afternoon. He and that great staff over there at WNSP is they do a great job with their daily radio program. And as I've said, it's been an honor to be a part of their show, and always enjoy talking some ball with Corey LeBounty. And again, continued success, my friend. We appreciate you joining us here. And I know you're going to have a great final drive later this afternoon from 3 to 6, but appreciate it, my brother, and always enjoy talking some football with you. We can't wait to see Ryan Williams against Western Kentucky, and certainly we're excited about Kane Womack and what he can do defensively for the Crimson Tide. But appreciate the insight, my friend.
Likewise, guys. Thank you for having me. You guys have a blessed day.
All right, thanks. So let's get a break in. We're going to wrap it all up next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Still got a wreck in Athens, 31 northbound at 251. That one may be with us for a few more minutes. And we've been having problems with the traffic signal, Mooresville Road and Greenbrier. HPD's been directing traffic there. Officers, construction workers, and first responders put their lives on the line every time they step on the roadway. You can make it safer for them. Slow down or move over. It's the law. Captain Eck in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
By now, you know about Eagle Masonry and Insulation, and maybe you know that Eagle also does landscaping and dirt work. But how about after paint work? Shower doors, shelving, and mirrors, all taken care of by Eagle, the same Eagle that takes care of all your masonry, insulation, and landscaping needs. Eagle brings the same level of expertise to all these disciplines, and they're ready to provide you with a free quote. The website is the same, insulatewitheagle.com, as is the phone number, 256-755-1556. Give them a call and see what Eagle can do for you. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
You've got to experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
A wise man once said, if you take care of old folks and children, everything in the middle will take care of itself.
Hi, I'm Danny Aldridge, lawyer in Alabama and Tennessee. In the next 20 years, the number of those folks over 65 years of age will more than double. In our golden years, the most important goal is to be treated with dignity and have control over doing what makes you grateful with those you love. At the Aldridge Law Firm and the Legal Town Center, we're dedicated to help you with these goals, and we'll be there when life throws you those inevitable curveballs. Let us assist you with your legal needs, whatever they may be or become. You may reach us by phone at 256-534-3188 or online with Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Just remember, we're here to help. Whether it's personal injury, wrongful death, fraud and cheat, or estate planning made complete, we're here to help.
It's time to get ready for game day. That means Alabama football and tailgating. Whether you're tailgating at home or at Bryant-Denny, visit Brooks & Collier for North Alabama's largest selection of premium grills and smokers like Big Green Egg, Blaze, Delta Heat, Memphis, and Traeger. Satisfy any palate with our wall of rubs and seasonings. For all your tailgating needs, visit Brooks & Collier at 813 Meridian Street or at brooksandcollier.com. An Alabama tradition for over 75 years. Roll Tide.
time for tomorrow's headlines today with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. Let's slip in a quick phone call real fast. Pat from Tuscaloosa with us. Good morning, Pat.
What's up, Pat?
Real quick, I heard that comparison about Julio, but the comparison for Williams is one David Palmer. Palmer was a small guy, but Palmer was a jackknife and could do most anything as well as can Williams. Said I watched him in an Under Armour game, and he played against the best defensive backs there were there, and made them look absolutely silly down at the Under Armour game. He's going to be special. I've got boots on the ground inside of the complex, and that hey, I asked him a question. Was he as good as advertised? And they said he was way better than advertised. And it seems to be scrimmages showing that be a true statement. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I've certainly heard nothing but positivity. I think he's had a really good transition. He's made plays. He had a long touchdown catch of close to 50 yards, an explosive one from Milroe early in the scrimmage on Saturday. So he's certainly acclimating himself, no question about it. He's a special talent. And I think he's got uncommon maturity, which we wanted to get that from Corey LeBounty of WNSP Radio, host of The Final Drive, and I think we did. And I certainly think he can make a big impact. And I've compared him as I've said, as a cross between Devontae Smith and the Deuce. And people forget too, we had Jeff Kelly on the show to kind of talk about him before when he reclassified and things of that nature. But Jeff, he was a quarterback, his freshman year. Didn't start making the full-time, move to a wide receiver until he was a sophomore. Yeah. And then they did that to get one of the, you're getting your best athletes on the field, and that's what they did. And he noticed when KJ Lacey transferred over there, they were throwing routes, and he saw what a special talent quickly that Ryan Williams was, and he exploded as a sophomore. Pat, and helped him win a state championship. And as you would say, that the old saying is, the rest is history.
Yeah. All right, guys. I just wanted to throw that in, that Palmer that could throw the ball, catch the ball, return punts, so what nothing Palmer couldn't do. Anyway, if Palmer could have stayed on the field and not had to be punished, he probably would have won the Heisman Trophy, no doubt.
Thanks, Pat. All right, thanks for the phone call, Pat. Hey, one quick note. The Crimson Tide Sports Network last week announcing Damian Harris would be on the broadcast. Damian Harris will not be on the broadcast this fall. Chris Stewart announced it this morning. Damian Harris will pursue other opportunities. So Damian Harris will not be a part of the Crimson Tide Sports Network broadcast this coming fall. So there you go.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's going to do it. That's going to do it for our 2 hours. We didn't even get through everything we wanted to get through.
Time flies when you're having fun.
We tried. We'll try it again. We'll do another 120 minutes tomorrow.
You need a lawyer and pick up the phone. I'm attorney Gary Lackey. When you call for a lawyer, where does that phone ring? It might be in a call center somewhere, maybe 100 miles away, but my phone rings in my office.
The Lackey Law Firm.
I'm attorney Justin Lackey. My phone rings in my office too.
So does mine. I'm attorney Jennifer Lackey. And when you've been hurt and need help, we're here. We're the ones who take your call.
And get what you deserve.
You want to talk to your lawyer. You don't want to reach a call center. With the Lackey Law Firm, that never happens.
The Lackey Law Firm.
And this is the most important part. We'll treat you like family because that's exactly what we are.
The Lackey Law Firm.
And I'll go you one better if you can't come to us.